Imagine standing in your childhood bedroom just 1 week before your wedding, looking at an empty garment bag where your $5,000 dream should be. The silk is gone, the lace is missing, and the person who took it is the one you're supposed to trust most in the world. My sister didn't just steal a piece of fabric, she tried to steal my entire future. But she made one massive mistake. She thought that dress was my peak, but she had no idea I was about to walk down the aisle in a designer masterpiece that would make her heart stop. My name is Emily, and this is the story of how my sister Sarah's jealousy finally backfired in the most public way possible. It all started when we were kids, and it ended with her sobbing on the floor of my wedding venue while I looked like royalty. Growing up with Sarah was like living in the shadow of a hurricane. She was the golden child, the one who always needed the spotlight, the one who could do no wrong in our mother's eyes. If I got a new toy, Sarah would break it just to see if I'd cry. If I got a good grade, she'd claim the teacher was biased. Our mother, Linda, always enabled her, telling me that I was the strong one and that I needed to be patient with my sensitive sister. It was a dynamic that followed us into adulthood. Sarah struggled to keep a job and lived off our parents, while I worked my way up in a marketing firm, saving every penny for a life of my own. When I met Mark, I thought I'd finally found a corner of the world where Sarah couldn't reach me. Mark was kind, successful, and he saw right through her. But Sarah didn't like being ignored. From the moment we got engaged, she made it her mission to make my wedding about her. She'd accidentally spill wine on my mood boards or forget to pass along messages from the florist. I tried to stay calm, telling myself it was just her usual antics. I didn't realize she was planning something much more sinister. The jealousy reached a boiling point during my dress hunt. I had been dreaming of a specific vintage-style lace gown for years. I saved for 18 months to afford it. When I finally found the one at a high-end boutique, I was over the moon. It was a custom-fitted, off-the-shoulder gown with intricate pearl detailing. It cost $5,000, which was a fortune to me, but I wanted to feel perfect, just once. I made the mistake of showing Sarah a photo. I saw the way her eyes narrowed, that familiar glint of envy disguised as a fake smile. "It's nice, Emily," she had said, her voice dripping with artificial sweetness. "A bit much for a girl like you, don't you think? Maybe you should have gone with something more modest." I brushed it off, thinking she was just her usual bitter self. Because our house was being renovated, I decided to keep the dress at my mother's place for safekeeping. I thought it would be safe there. I thought my mother would protect it. I was wrong. 1 week before the big day, I went to my mother's house to pick up the gown for my final fitting. When I walked into the guest room, my heart dropped into my stomach. The garment bag was hanging there, but it felt light. When I unzipped it, my breath hitched. It was empty. I felt a cold wave of panic wash over me. I searched the closet, the underbed storage, and even the attic, screaming for my mother. When Linda finally walked in, she didn't look surprised. She looked guilty. "Where is it, Mom? Where is my dress?" I demanded, my voice trembling. She sighed, looking at her nails. "Now, Emily, don't get hysterical. Sarah had a gala event for one of those influencers she follows. She didn't have anything to wear, and she was so depressed. She just borrowed it for the night. She promised to have it back by tomorrow." I couldn't believe my ears. My $5,000 wedding gown, custom fitted for me, was being worn by my sister to some random party. I didn't wait. I drove straight to Sarah's apartment, my vision blurred with tears of rage. When I got there, I heard music blaring. I pounded on the door until she opened it. There she was, standing in my wedding dress, holding a glass of red wine. She had altered it. She had hacked off the sleeves and taken in the waist so tightly that the delicate lace was straining at the seams. "What are you doing here?" she asked, stumbling slightly. I didn't say a word. I pushed past her and looked at the ruin of my dream. The hem was covered in city grime, and there was a faint pink stain near the bust. "You stole it," I whispered. Sarah laughed, a sharp, ugly sound. Oh, please, you're such a drama queen. Mom said I could use it. Besides, it looks better on me anyway. You're too plain for a dress like this. I realized then that I couldn't save that dress. It was tainted. I walked out of her apartment without a word, leaving her smirking in the doorway. She thought she had won. She thought she had broken me. The next 3 days were a blur of cold, calculated fury. I didn't call her, I didn't text her, I didn't even yell at my mother. I called my godmother, Claire, who happened to be a retired fashion designer with connections in New York. I told her everything. Claire had always hated how Sarah treated me, and when she heard about the dress, she told me to get in my car and drive to her studio immediately. She said, "We aren't going to fix that rag, Emily. We are going to give you the gown Sarah could never even imagine." Claire had been working on a private project, a custom couture gown made of Italian silk and hand-stitched crystals. It was a dress intended for a runway show that had been canceled. It was worth $15,000. When I stepped into it, I didn't just look like a bride. I looked like a queen. Claire spent 48 hours straight tailoring it to my body. Meanwhile, I found out through the grapevine that Sarah was planning to show up at my wedding in the altered, stolen lace gown just to humiliate me. She wanted everyone to see that she could wear my wedding look better than I could. The morning of the wedding, the atmosphere in the bridal suite was tense. My mother kept trying to apologize, saying she didn't think it was a big deal, but I ignored her. I told my bridesmaids exactly what was happening. We made a plan. No one was to let Sarah see me before the ceremony. I stayed hidden in a back room while the guests began to arrive. Mark knew the truth, and he was livid, but I told him to trust me. Just wait for the doors to open. Outside, Sarah was preening. She had arrived early, swanning around in my ruined, altered lace gown, telling guests that I had changed my mind and given it to her because it didn't fit right. She was acting like the guest of honor, soaking up the confused stares of our relatives. She was so confident that she had successfully stolen my moment. She thought I was going to walk down the aisle in some off-the-rack backup dress looking like a defeated mess. The ceremony began. The music started, and the bridesmaids walked down the aisle in their champagne-colored silk. Sarah was sitting in the front row, literally wearing the dress I was supposed to be in, a smug, triumphant grin plastered across her face. She kept glancing back at the doors, waiting to see my shameful entrance. The heavy oak doors of the chapel creaked open. The light flooded in from behind me, creating a silhouette that stopped the music for a heartbeat. Then I stepped forward. The shimmering Italian silk caught the light, and the crystals on my bodice sparkled like 1,000 stars. The train was 10 feet long, flowing behind me like a river of moonlight. The entire room went dead silent. It wasn't just a wedding dress. It was a statement of power. I saw Sarah's face. The smugness vanished instantly. Her jaw dropped, and her face went from pale to a sickly shade of green. As I walked past her row, I didn't look at her. I kept my eyes on Mark, who was beaming with a mixture of pride and awe, but I could hear the whiskers of the guests. Wait, isn't Sarah wearing Emily's old dress? Why is it so short? Did she actually steal the bride's backup? The realization rippled through the pews. Sarah looked down at the lace she was wearing, the lace she had hacked up and stained, and suddenly it looked exactly what it was. A stolen, ruined piece of someone else's dream. Compared to my couture gown, she looked cheap. She looked desperate. She looked like a thief. By the time I reached the altar, Sarah was shaking. She couldn't handle the shift in the room's energy. She had spent her whole life trying to be the more beautiful sister, and in 1 second, I had permanently erased that illusion. She realized that by stealing the first dress, she had inadvertently forced me into something 10 times better. The reception was the final blow. During the speeches, my godmother, Claire, stood up and made a toast. She mentioned how honored she was to provide a true couture masterpiece for a bride who deserved the world after her original dress was tragically compromised. She didn't name names, but she didn't have to. Every eye turned to Sarah, who was hiding in the corner trying to cover the wine stain on her lap. She eventually broke down and fled to the bathroom in tears, sobbing that I had tricked her. My mother tried to follow her, but I stopped her. "Let her go, Mom," I said calmly. "She wanted my dress, and she got it. I hope she enjoys the stains." After the wedding, I went low contact with both of them. I realized that my happiness wasn't something they could take unless I let them. Sarah still tells people I was mean to her, but nobody listens anymore. They just remember the girl who wore a stolen dress to her sister's wedding and the bride who outshone the sun. I kept my designer gown in a glass case, a reminder that some things are worth fighting for, and some people